Hiya! So I'm back again, and this time we're going to look at how the Humpkins assemble. Da 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 da! And yeah, I'm out back in the shedio again, and I'm going to show you how to make the final bits of putting him together, and you should have your finished Humpkin. Hooray! He says. Too much time in the shed. I think I'm losing the plot anyway. Okay, so let's get started. I'm going to just go through all the things that I've got ready before we get started on assembling our Humpkin. And so by now you should have your pumpkin's outfit ready done with the little tendrils attached. Okay, and I've left the thread there for sewing on. Okay, and you should have, of course, his body, his legs, his arms, his little hat, which we've already sewn the little sprouty stalk on the leaf, and then the little cheeks, which I nearly forgot and had to send out to everyone as an extra email. Part of the C.A.L. Never mind. And what else have we got here? We've got a sharp needle, and I've got a wooden crochet hook. I don't use this as a crochet hook. This is my special small part stuffer. And I've got my crochet hook, a pair of scissors, and I haven't got my picture, but you guys will have your instructions. But I've just got my previously made Humpkin that I'm going to use as the before and after. So there we go. I've just noticed something that I never bothered to get around to doing the finished bit of the cuff on here, but never mind. I obviously just demonstrated you that bit on this one and demonstrated the top on this one and never got around to it, so never mind, we won't worry about that. I'm going to use this one. You guys have got yours at home, and we'll give them a go. I'm going to clear the decks so that I've got enough space to work and start with just making the doll. Okay, so I'm making Humpkin in his naked form, where he's just wearing his little stripy trousers. Okay, so we'll do that first. So I'm going to move everything out of the way that I don't need. And I am also then going to get my lovely amigurumi pins. So here they are. These are my lovely long amigurumi pins with heart-shaped ends, which I use quite a lot. So we're going to start off just to get the positions of everything right before we start. So here we go. So you can see underneath you've got the stripes. So the first job, if you haven't already done so, is to seal the ends of the limbs. Now you could, if you wanted, crochet across the top when you finish them, but when I was making these for sort of demo purposes, I forgot to do that, so I'm just going to whip stitch across the top here like that of mine. Just, oh, hello, caught stitch, there we go, just to seal the end. Okay, and that gives it a nice sort of easy edge to sew to, and I'm leaving the long bit here so that the long tail, so I can use that to sew on my end later. So I've got my arms to do as well, which I'll show you in a sec, but I did actually leave this one slightly unstuffed because I wanted to show you how I use my stuffy stick. I've tried lots of different things. This at the moment is my favourite because it's wooden, it's sort of bamboo hook. It's kind of quite a good diameter, about just a little bit under the sort of diameter of a pencil, and because it's sort of got a little bit of texture, it helps sort of catch the stuffing and sort of push whatever it is you want pushing down into the piece of amigurumi that you've made. I did used to use an old school pencil before with the rubber still on it, because I found the rubber and the bit of metal around here did the same sort of job, but it can also catch some of your stitches, and it can be a little bit too snug, especially when I'm doing the arms here like this. So this came with a kit or something a while back, and I've swapped over using that instead. But you just got to find something that works for you. Ideally, you stuff as you go. So I've got some of our recycled polyester toy stuffing here. This is really good stuff because it's nice and fluffy. It's soft. It works well, and it's recycled. So that is a really good way of repurposing plastic bottles. So it's quite a cool thing. So I've just got a little sort of drawn out clump of it, trying to keep it like a bit of a sausage, like the shape of the thing I'm stuffing. It'd be no point having a massive ball of it, because it'd just end up with a big bulge like a snake that's eaten an apple or something. So I'm trying to do it in a smaller bit. It's better to go small and add after than have to ram it in and distort the shape of your item, and then stretch the stitches, and then you take it out and it never looks quite as good as it would have done. So yeah, so I'm just gently using this to tease little bits in, and I keep like working it and round and pushing it down. You can see the motion that I'm doing there is just pushing it so that it will sort of kind of drag it in, and there we go, it's going in. And I'm mindful that I want it to be stiff at the bottom, but I don't want it to be too well stuffed at the top. So I'm just going to see how that feels, and possibly going to take a little bit of this out, because I don't want the top to end up too bulgy, because I want to be able to seal it nice and flat so that when it goes against the body, it can move, you know, and flop. Okay, I kind of think it looks nicer if it can flop down a bit. Otherwise you're going to get arms that just stand out like a scarecrow from the body, so if it's too well stuffed. And similarly, that's the reason why I seal the edges rather than putting it against it and going all the way round, because I don't actually want that to be round on the body. So I don't want it to go like that, I want it to be squished. So I've got my cutie little pins, and this is really important. This is the bit that I think makes or breaks the design. With the legs, I talk about this in my notes, but it's much easier if I can show you. I talk about putting it near the front of the body. So if you look at the bottom, you've got that's the center. So my legs are going in the front portion of that and slightly at a diagonal angle. Okay, so you can see it like this. And this is a little bit fiddly when I'm trying to do this on camera. He's going to bounce away from me, I can feel it. Anyway, I'm just going to bung the couple of pins in there, and then I'm going to adjust them. I'm going to adjust them in a minute. So, right, that needs to be over a little bit more. So it's at a slight angle, and it's in the front portion. And that's very good reason for that is because then it creates a little bottom for him. So I'm just going to pin these a little bit better. Okay, so by doing that, you've got the majority of this, all the base, towards the back. So that means that then when they're finished, they will sit down, and he's got something to actually rest on instead of just rolling about like a wee ball. So I'm trying to create this kind of splayed leg effect as well, which I think gives it a little bit more character. You don't have to do that. If you want to do that, they need to be at diagonal positions to each other, kind of like this. That in there, so you can see there's the very center. I'm kind of just making it so these point inwards to that little bit of the bottom there, like that. Okay, so it won't show you how it sits properly because I've got the pins in, and they'll just get bent if I try and do it. But anyway, there we go. So it creates a little V shape there, creates a little bottom there. Okay, right, now then I'm going to try and keep this close up as possible. So now we're going to start stitching on the legs, and I normally do the front part first, so I'm just going to take out one of the pins, and using my thread I'm going to catch it into the base of the Humpty and just start stitching it on, and just catching it in. To those stitches. I'm putting it quite tight. Now luckily the colours are the same here. I did that deliberately so it would make it easier and neater to sew it on. So here we go, just coming up there. I need to take that other needle out, sorry, pin out, and just stitching it on. I'm going to catch it there in the line that I want into the last stitch. And okay, I could just carry on there, but you can see how it could easily, that's a bit of a pressure point, it could easily start pulling out there. So I'm adding an extra couple of stitches just on this end, because that is where his leg would fall off if it was going to. So too much play with that, and that could start coming apart. So I always do an extra little stitch on the ends, and I'm going to go back round in the other direction. So you can see it's quite nice and floppy, but you can see the stitches there showing through from the other side. So I'm going to go back along this one as well. It makes a neater finish and a more secure finish. So this is a little bit tricky with the other leg. I'm keeping this one in place, but if I was doing this at home I'd probably take this leg off while I was working, but I want you to be able to see the position of it a bit more. So I'm just going to go in here. Here we go. Try not to do it too big a stitch. I'm going kind of in the end of that there, and then I'm flopping the leg forward so that I can then go along the other side. And again I'm doing another stitch right on the end just to secure that a little bit better. And then here I'm just going to catch the stitches in as neatly and as small as I can to make it nice and neat. And luckily, like I said, because of the colours, it's almost invisible. Here we go. Right, now I've got this tricky bit here where I've got the light green going on the dark green, so I'm going to go under that one and come out. Let's come out here and then go into the green, the light green, and then back in on the end. Okay, so we've now gone all the way round, and I'm going to turn it to the edge here, and I'm going to do another little securing stitch right on that end, because again that will be a weak point when it's being played with. We don't want his leg falling off, because poor Humpty's been through enough, what with falling off the wall and everything. So here we go. Okay, so just securing that a little bit more. This is why you can see it was quite stiff to do that. That's why it's quite good to have the sharp needle at this point. It does make it a lot easier. So it's quite neat. I'm going to go back in the light green because I'm using light green, and I'm going to go all the way through to the back here, pass my needle through all the stuffing and pull it out, and do exactly what I showed you before in the other tutorial, where you pull it tighter against, put a bit of tension in it like that, and then cut it, and then it just disappears inside so you can't see it. And you can see here on the back you've got the steps of the stripe. My patterns, I'm trying to make them as relatively easy as possible, so I haven't worried about the fact that you get the stepping. You get that a lot in amigurumi work. There's loads of tutorials online. If you don't like that look, you can have a look and see what you know, other people suggest, but it does make it more complicated, and you can end up with stitch counts going adrift and things like that. So after lots of deliberation, I decided to just go with it. It's at the back. I don't mind it. You know, that shows a seam. It's fine as far as I'm concerned. If you don't like it, like I said, do a bit of Googling. You'll find some examples on YouTube about how to get rid of the stepping on stripes in amigurumi work. Here we go. We have another leg to do. So I'm going to do that leg and then meet you back here and we'll work on the arms. Okay, so as you can see, nice and floppy. Right then, so we've got the legs on, which are all ready to run. Now, if I was normally making one of my Humpties, I would be putting the arms on now. And I'm just going to show you, usually in my designs, I create a line for the bottom half, you know, depending on what they're wearing. And so usually the place to put the arms is between those the last two rounds before it changes colour. So you can see around about here. That just allows you to catch it into one row of stitches, flip it over, and then catch it in underneath without it without the stitches going into that bottom part of, you know, with a different colour. However, with this one, we've got an outfit to go on. So for ease of sewing, for this one, we're going to dress him first and then put his arms on. Because believe me, when I did it the other way around before, it was quite fiddly and annoying when it got to the armpit area. So we're going to do it like this. We're going to get him into his little outfit. So pull the legs through and up and position it how you want. Okay, so here he is in his little outfit. And you can see that fits nice and snugly. Should fit like this with no gaps all the way around. Okay, but depending on your tension, should it become a little bit baggy, then this is the point where you could just catch a few extra stitches in and bunch it up a little bit so that it fits. If it's a little bit tight, then, you know, I don't see any reason why you couldn't stitch it a little bit lower down and it would still look fine. If you want to, you can pin it in place here and there just to keep it from slipping down. It's not necessary, but it might just stop it from sliding if you want to make sure that your little curly tendrils are in the right place and it doesn't kind of slide around when you're sewing. We did leave a very long thread before. I talked about this in my other video so that you can use it for sewing on, and hopefully this will be nice and easy for you because we left the row of front loop onlys earlier on so that we could actually use them for sewing on or crocheting it on to the body if you prefer. Okay, so you could, if you wanted, that's why I've got my hook here, you could hook into this, hook into that front loop only and use the yarn or attach some more yarn to slip stitch it all the way around. It's entirely up to you. Personally, having tried both methods, I think this is probably the easiest. And so you've got the nice little stitches left. You can just catch that in to the very bottom initial round that you made your leaves on, and just whip stitch it all the way around. So I'm getting rid of that there, starting here, and I'm just going to go in, do a couple of stitches and show you how to do it. I'm not going to show you too many because it's fairly straightforward. Okay, I'm just pulling it tight so you can see how they disappear into it. Anyway, so there we go. You can see how that's working. Come up really close. You can see the stitches in there. Pull it tight. It's nice and neat. It all disappears. And you will end up with your Humpkin all stitched together with his little pumpkin suit like that. His little... Someone sent me a picture of theirs and they said it looked very much like Henry VIII. And anyway, puffling pants from the Tudor period, very good. Oh, also things like +4s. Oh, I could definitely do some retro looking things with that, couldn't I? Anyway, I'm going off on one again, I think. Like I said, too long in the shed. I'm very tired from this week of doing the cow and having so many technical issues with everything. I'm waffling even more than normal. So there we go. So we do this bit, then I'm not even going to go all the way around. I'm just going to show you putting the arm on, how that's going to look here. Okay, so we're going to stitch the arm on here like that. And the last thing to do will be to stitch the little hat on. There we go. So I'm now going to just get one arm on so you can see how that looks. We'll do the hat, and obviously I've got one I made earlier so you can see how it looks at the end anyway without me doing the whole thing. Oh, look at them. Hello. So I've just done a couple of stitches to secure it. I pinned it and then I've attached it. And the great thing is that we're just following along this row here, so it's nice and easy, just catching into the stitches. It's only like 2 or 3 stitches to do the arms. It's great. So let's just do that. I've got to be able to rest against something there. Sorry, I can't do up in the air. And I'm not techie enough at the moment to be able to do zooming in and zooming out very much. There we go, low tech. Anyway, here we go. So I've got to the end, and as before I am going to do a couple of extra stitches just into the end to make sure it's secure and that the arm doesn't fall off. So extra stitch in the end, fold the arm up, and then just catch it in underneath. Here we go, just doing it on the surface. I'm not going too deep into the body or anything. I'm just literally catching the stitches right at the end again, and I'm going to just do my little couple of stitches to secure it. Just going to do one more, I think, just into there, so it looks like the arm's blended in properly. Okay, there we go, and poke it in the hole and out through the back again. And here we go, give it a bit of tension, cut it off, and it's all disappeared. So here we go, look, the arm nice and secure on there. Like I said before, you would go all the way around with this stitching to make it on there. And now I'm just going to go and do the hat. So here he is having his little hat. I'm resisting the urge to put the hat in a different position because, I'd love to do it over the eye or, perhaps on the other side, but I'm stopping myself from going off piste because I might need this for photographing or for something later on, and it needs to match the pictures on my pattern. So for today I'm resisting, and because I don't like to do the same thing twice. It's terrible. But anyway, I'm going to do it exactly the same as this one. I am. Okay, so I'm using the thread that was through from the middle where we tied off the middle, if you remember in the other video, and I'm going to use that as kind of like the anchor stitch. So that one's going in and out part of the hat like that, just to make sure I'm happy with where it sits. And if I am, then that's great. I'm just going to go in and do another stitch so it comes big old one there, look, coming out on the other side. It's fine because it disappears. I'm not going to pull it too tight because I don't want it to distort the shape of the hat. And I am then going to push it through and out the back and get rid of that, and I'm not stitching it right down through and over because it's going to be stitched all the way around the outside, which will hold it in place anyway. So should this one come loose, it's not going to matter. But if I kept going in and out here, it would start making loads of dimples in the hat, and I want it to sort of have a bit more body in it and kind of, you know, stay a bit more, have a bit more sort of puffiness in it, I guess is the right word. Okay, so that's in place. It's like almost like a tacking stitch for those of you that do sewing. It's keeping it in place while I go around the outside. So I've got my nice long threader left from the end from before, and this is just going to be the last little bit. Now threading it, come on, you know you want to thread, there we go. And this bit I really don't want it to show, so I'm going to try and catch it in on the underside. So I'm kind of pulling it back there, and I can just see that I've got one of Ted the cat's hairs stuck in it. Oh, that's brilliant. I bet you all have the same problem. Any of you have got pets, you end up with half a cat in your work if you're not careful. Anyway, so for this one I'm going to try and do a sort of the mattress stitch. So it's going down, along, back, along, down, along, back, along, down. Okay, so on either side, because the orange and the white obviously don't match and we don't want it to show. So it's going to be a little bit caught up on, keeps getting caught up on everything. Anyway, so here we go. We went in through one stitch in the white, we're coming back and going directly opposite, and then going along a stitch or two like that in the orange, pulling it through, and then going directly opposite and into the white again and across and under, you know, under a couple of stitches there, pulling it through, and then going again directly opposite into that there, along a couple of stitches. And you can see then, you can kind of, if I pull it out, you can see where it's gone. There, there, across, down, across, down. Sometimes it's called ladder stitch because of that reason. So if you pull it tight, you can see it disappears into your work, and it's really neat and makes an almost invisible join. That's the word I was looking for. Okay, so here we go. I'm just going to do one more stitch so that I can get this out of the way, and you can see how it's come out. Okay, so yes, I know he's not quite finished, but I'm trying to move on with this a little bit quicker so that it's not a complete real-time assembly here. I'm sure you know from those little bits how to do it, that's fine. So I'm just going to put that to one side, and the last little bit are those little cute cheeks. Now these were fastened off with a slip stitch into it, but I'm going to join this as like an invisible join as well, so that it finishes that stitch on the edge, so that it kind of completes the stitch. So just to give a little bit better effect, because it's only one round, it's more noticeable. Splitting a little bit here. Right, let's pull that one. Okay, so that's the one that's split and not even with the others, so I'm wiggling that one, and look, there we go, we've all the threads are joined up with each other, and now we can slide it along. Okay, so that's a little tip if it gets a little bit split and messed up when you're trying to pull it through the needle. Okay, so I'm going to try and do this as close up as possible. I'm going to go and follow the way the stitches go. So I'm going around the back and through those two. So under those stitches there, you can see the previous stitch doing it there. So I'm just following that around, and then I'm going to go back in the hole there. You can see where it would finish the stitch. Okay, so that now looks like a complete circle and gives a much nicer effect than if I left it. And now it's ready on the bottom side to sew it onto the body. Now you're also going to need to sew in that middle end and make that tight. And because I'm trying to save a little bit of time, and I probably should have done that first, I'm going to get another needle out, and I'm going to just do that quickly now. I don't want to unthread my needle. as it was a bit tricky to get through that one. It's got quite a small hole, that's why. Anyway, so here's my other one. Other needle. 2 needles at once. Wow. Multi-noodling. Okay, so I'm just going to go through those stitches there to make sure this is pulling in the middle of the magic ring. I'm not going to do it too tight, otherwise my cheeks will just disappear into a little clump. So I'm just doing it, not pulling it too tight, and I'm just going to catch it over and do 1 stitch like that, and I'm going to leave a little tiny bit of an end because that's going to be hidden, so that won't come undone, even though I haven't gone round it as much as I might have done on a bigger piece. That's going to be hidden and it'll all be fine and secure. So here we go. Right, so position of the cheeks, I did them about 1 stitch down to the outer edge of the eye. You can do them maybe to the side, it's up to you, whatever you want to do really. It's your thing, you can make it look how you want. And I'm just catching this in through, whip stitching it around. Such a small piece, a little bit fiddly, and I'm going through just the outer loop, okay, of these stitches, just to make sure it doesn't reduce the size too much. Keeps the shape quite nicely, and you don't end up with like a flappy edge by doing that. And if I went under and through, if I just show you the difference, if I went through both stitches, then my stitch here would be going over the top like that, okay, and it won't be quite as neat. So especially if you were doing it with a different colour, you wouldn't want it to show. So anyway, I'll go back to doing it the way I was doing it now for the rest, just through those edges like that. Nearly there. I'm doing it round through all of the stitches just to make it all look uniform. Okay, so it's made a nice little defined edge as well there. And again, for this, I'm not going to do lots of stitches around it. There's quite a lot already sewing it down. So I'm just going to go in this hole here and out through the back. That's not going to fall off. Okay, there we go. And again, give it some tension, cut it off. Okay, so that's, you can see that's really nice and secure now. There we go, and you just got to do that on both sides. And then here's the one I prepared earlier. You can see how it looks when it's completely finished. So it's like Tweedledum and Tweedledee. They need to be next, don't they? That's what I need to do next. I keep having all these ideas while I'm doing it. Anyway, tell me what you think about it. You can write in the comments. And if this has been useful, let me know. If there's something you'd rather see me do or not do, let me know. And if you like watching these videos, please consider subscribing. I'm hoping to do quite a few more, and I will see you in my shed again, I'm sure. Take care. Bye.